Some video games become classics the moment they just release, so other ones spend years sitting in the shadows before folks start realizing they were trying to do something genuinely interesting. They may not have been huge commercial successes, and they probably weren't the games everyone talked about growing up, but at the same time, they sort of introduce ideas that deserve far more attention than they actually received. And sometimes all it takes is looking back with fresh eyes to see how much potential was actually hiding underneath the limitations of those old hardwares. I'm gonna be honest, I think that's exactly how I at least look at Contra Force. When people think of Contra, they usually picture alien invasions, massive explosions, impossible difficulty, and some non-stop run-and-gun action. In fact, Contra Force took a different path. Instead of sending players into some jungles or secret military facilities, it dropped the action into a futuristic city where organized crime, advanced weapons, and dangerous mercenary groups become an everyday threat. It was a strange direction for the series, and not everyone liked it, but that's also what makes it so memorable today. Like, it wasn't trying to copy the games that came before it, it wanted to be its own thing. This game also introduced 4 playable characters instead of giving everyone the same exact experience. Each character had different weapons and strengths, encouraging players to experiment with different approaches depending on the situation. And on the Nintendo, those ideas couldn't always reach their full potential, but the foundation was there. That is probably why Contra Force keeps coming back whenever people actually discuss these forgotten games that deserve another chance. Well, first of all, Konami's never announced a remake. There's nothing suggesting one is currently in development. The Contra series has returned in recent years with titles like Contra Operation Goluga, but Contra Force remains one of the few entries that hasn't been revisited in any meaningful way. Honestly, that's a little surprising, because if there's one game in the franchise that feels perfect for a modern remake, it might be this one. Like, the biggest reason is actually basically this setting. Most Contra games already have fantastic action, so simply making another jungle shooter wouldn't feel especially fresh. Contra Force, however, already solved that problem decades ago by choosing a futuristic city instead. With today's technology, that idea could finally become everything the original hinted at. Every district could have its own personality, where downtown streets filled with abandoned vehicles or industrial shipping yards are packed with moving machinery, and underground subway tunnels connecting different parts of the city. Instead of every stage feeling disconnected, the entire campaign could gradually reveal more of the city as the mission unfolds. I mean, that alone will give the remake a much stronger identity. Of course, none of that matters if the gameplay isn't fun, and Contra's always been about fun movements. You shouldn't spend half the game hiding behind cover and slowly creeping around corners. The best moments happen when you're constantly running, jumping, dodging fire, and making split-second decisions without ever slowing down. A remake shouldn't lose that. If anything, movement should become even more smooth. Sliding underneath enemy attacks, vaulting over obstacles, climbing onto rooftops, bouncing off walls, and instantly switching between weapons, now all should feel completely natural. The 4 playable characters also deserve much bigger roles than they originally had. Rather than simply starting with different weapons, each operative could offer a noticeably different playstyle. One character could specialize in balanced combat that's easy for newcomers to learn, another might focus on heavy weapons capable of shredding armored enemies at the cost of mobility, like Max in the Streets of Rage. A faster operative could reward aggressive players who enjoy staying on the move. None of them need to feel overpowered, they just need to feel different enough that switching characters changes the way you approach a mission. And weapon design, man, is another area where a remake could really shine. Like, imagine laser weapons that punch through multiple enemies now, electric rounds that chain between nearby targets, and flamethrowers that leave temporary hazards behind them. Like, the goal isn't simply giving players stronger weapons, is what I'm saying, it's making every pickup change the flow of combat. And boss battles should receive the same treatment. I mean, Contra games had boss battles you couldn't dream of in another game. Contra's always been known for the enemies and the bosses that all actually fill the whole screen. And instead of standing in just one area from beginning to end, fights could evolve as the environment changes around you. A massive armored vehicle might smash through several city blocks before finally cornering players inside the collapsing factory. Every boss should feel like a memorable event rather than just another hellfire, although Contra games' boss fights were never an environmental hazard. The original hardware couldn't do much, but modern systems could make every battlefield more chaotic without sacrificing none of that. And the story doesn't need to become some massive cinematic experience either. Contra's never been about lengthy cutscenes. A few mission briefings, radio conversations between teammates, emergency news reports, and environmental storytelling will be enough to give players a better understanding of what's happening without constantly interrupting gameplay. Like, sometimes less really is more. And music is one part of Contra's identity that absolutely shouldn't be ignored. The fast guitars, the energetic rhythms, and the memorable melodies have always helped keep the action exciting and flowing. But Contra Force could develop its own sound by blending that classic style with the electronic influences that better matches futuristic setting. Industrial percussions, heavy synths, driving guitar riffs. The soundtrack should immediately tell players they're somewhere different while still sounding unmistakably like Contra. Also, it's also impossible to talk about Contra without mentioning multiplayer. Some of the best memories people have with this series came from sitting next to a friend, trying to survive impossible levels together while accidentally stealing each other's power-up stuff or laughing after another ridiculous game over. That experience shouldn't disappear. Local co-op should absolutely return, but online multiplayer should feel just as smooth as well. 4-player campaign could finally let every member of Contra Force fight together at the same time, something folks actually dreamed of. Simple cooperation has always been enough. One thing a remake should avoid, though, is trying too hard to modernize the series. Not every game needs skill trees or endless loot systems or dozens of currencies designed to keep players grinding for hundreds of hours. Contra's always been about jumping in, blasting through incredible levels, and constantly improving your own skill. That formula still works, it just needs modern presentation wrapped around it. Maybe that's why Contra Force remains such an interesting part of the franchise. It wasn't afraid to experiment. Some ideas worked better than others, but it proved Contra didn't have to rely on the same exact formula forever. It showed there was room for new settings, different characters, and a fresh direction, without, completely abandoning what made the series fun in the first place. That's a kind of game worth revisiting. Not because it's perfect, of course, but because it feels like there was unfinished business. Still, if they ever decide to bring this forgotten chapter back, I personally hope they don't treat it like a curiosity from the NES era. I hope they recognize what made it special: a unique setting, distinct playable characters, relentless arcade action, and enough original ideas to stand alongside the biggest names in the franchise instead of hiding behind them. Because sometimes the games that deserve a second chance aren't the ones everyone remembers, they're the ones that were just simply ahead of their time.